Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel and thanks for joining me today. I'm Aja McClanahan with Principles of Increase, where I help you discover and explore ways to increase in different areas of your life. Hey there, and thanks for joining me today. In this video, I want to give you guys an update on a topic that's long overdue. I've alluded to it a little bit in my newsletter. Make sure you sign up for my newsletter so you get updates on what I'm working on real estate wise, travel wise, and all that fun stuff. And I've also talked about it on my Instagram and giving you guys some previews. Make sure you follow me on Instagram. My handle is Principles of Increase. And finally, this is really one of my core tenets of how I like to live life, have fun, do things that I enjoy, and it's all about real estate. So make sure you also check out my book. I'm just doing all these shameless plugs today. My new book, Real Estate by Faith, and I'll put all that stuff in the description below. But anyway, the long and short of it is that I was able to help a client get a duplex in Puerto Rico. This was a very young person under the age of 21. They had some savings and they wanted to get a property. So we were able to get a duplex for them so they can house hack the heck out of this thing. They are a college student with a roommate in the bottom level, and the top level they are renting to a family. However, you guys, I gotta let you know that it took some time and energy to get this done, and so I helped my client from beginning to end, negotiating the contract for owner finance and their down payment, and then getting everything set up from nuts to bolts. I'm talking utilities, propane tanks, appliances, screening tenants, just like the whole kit and caboodle. So I want to walk you through what it takes to acquire a property and set it up here in Puerto Rico. So in case you're thinking about doing that, you'll know everything it'll take. You'll be able to manage your time better. And then if you want to hire somebody like me, you will understand why it costs what it costs to walk through this whole process. So without further ado, well, there's going to be a little bit of ado because we're going to hear a message from one of the channel sponsors, and then we will jump right into the nitty-gritty of this video. Are you looking for the most flexible, affordable option for car rental on the island of Puerto Rico? Welcome to Occupancy, Puerto Rico's first car sharing marketplace. Founded in 2021 by U.S. military vets, fueled by honesty, service, and reliability, Occupancy is here to make your island adventures unforgettable. With Occupancy, you'll get a wide range of vehicle types with all kinds of pricing options. Plus, there are car rentals for drivers as young as 18 years old. Hassle-free, same-day bookings, insurance coverage, roadside assistance, and toll passes, everything you need for a worry-free trip. Plus, you can enjoy pickup and drop-off services within 20 miles of the San Juan area. Whether you're exploring Puerto Rico for the first time or the 100th, do it the right way. Do it the Occupancy way. Book now at OccupACarsharing.com and use code CASCAP25, CASCAP25 to save 5% on your rental. Book now at OccupACarsharing.com and use code CASCAP25 or CASCAP25 to save 5% on your rental with Occupancy today. The first phase of this deal was negotiating. Well, really finding it, then negotiating. The seller wanted a little bit lower price, but we offered more in exchange for seller financing at 0%. So that means that every payment on the mortgage goes directly to the buyer in terms of equity. And then there's a 5-year balloon, meaning the balance around $80 or so thousand, which will be due at the end of the loan term. And I believe the plan is to turn the top unit into a midterm or short-term rental to be able to pay that balance off. So that's how we got into the deal. And the next part is setting everything up. This phase was all about preparing the property for occupancy, which means handling minor repairs, connecting utilities, and putting in appliances. In this case, the electrical service had been disconnected for over a year, so Luma, the electrical company on the island, requires me to contract a licensed electrician to certify that all the electrical fixtures in the system is in working order. Then I have to go to the offices to present this information and the certificate in order to connect the service on both floors separately. And I got I think it's like a very specific power of attorney from the buyer of the property so that I can handle all this in their stead. This could also happen with your water service too. So something that may be more straightforward in the United States in terms of connecting utilities on the island can take longer, especially if the services have not been connected for a while. You may have to get certification for both your water and your electrical. And again, that is going to cost time and money. You can hire that out or do it yourself if you have time to take care of it. And in the next phase of this saga, we are going shopping. Yay! This is one of my favorite parts about setting up rentals. You should know that in Puerto Rico for long-term rentals, it is pretty normal for people to bring their own appliances. Unless you want to get a little bit of premium on your rent, you really don't have to add them. But in this case, we are, because as I mentioned before, the goal is to turn one or both of those units into a short-term or mid-term rental. So we're going to go ahead and do some CapEx on the front end so we don't have to do it all at the same time. As you can see here, I am a fan of going to secondhand appliance stores because I like a lot of the analog machines. They have less components that can break and they tend to just last longer. They're not as fancy and sometimes they can be less expensive. In this case, we had to put a stackable in a really narrow closet. So I did have to do some measuring just to make sure that we got the right size unit. And also, like any other place, you can get electrical or gas. Here, there is no natural gas. It's all propane tanks. A lot of people tend to get the gas because they help save on the electric bills. So in the end, I think we just ended up getting some things from Home Depot because with the warranty and delivery, it just ended up being a better deal for this particular buyer. So in this case, we ended up with a stackable for the bottom unit and a washer and dryer for the top. Moving right along, we also had to add gas lines for both the top and bottom unit. So we kicked it off by getting a stove for the bottom unit, and I had to hire the propane guy to come out, install some copper lines, set up the stove. And you guys, using that copper was super expensive because we had to run it from the inside of the bottom unit and go all the way out to where we put the propane tank. And if you hang on just a moment, the video should turn the corner here and you'll see what that propane tank looks like if you're not familiar with that gas setup in Puerto Rico. There's the copper line and there's the tank. Eventually we moved it to the staircase because the washer and dryer is going to go there, but just want to give you an idea of what it takes to get your utilities and appliances working together. So all in all, for this entire property, we had one tank at the bottom that goes into the stove, or that feeds the stove and the dryer, and then up top there is a separate tank for the stove and a separate tank for the dryer. So this property has 3 different propane tanks, all needing their own separate lines and configurations. So you have to pay somebody and kind of supervise that work. In the next few frames, we'll just take a look at some other kind of minor repairs, handyman stuff. I'll show you the system that I use, which is SimpliSafe, to put in cameras, and it's kind of like a modular alarm system. So I'll put a link below if you're interested in setting that up. I've used them for years with no problem. The monitoring is great and it's easy to set up yourself. And then we'll just probably fast forward through some furnishing. I actually help the client do the furnishing at the bottom because, again, the bottom is for student housing and there are some requirements to put, some minimal furniture in there so you can say, hey, this is lodging for students in Puerto Rico. So essentially the next few months, became like this endless loop of going to and from the hardware stores, working with the contractor, who's great, by the way. I've been working with him for like 5 years since I came to Puerto Rico. So back and forth to the hardware stores, getting screens. I do need to mention that you may think that that is just something to take for granted. When you move into a new property, you typically do not have screens, and they're not cheap to create. I actually went to this hardware store and someone had to refer me to some obscure bush screen man kind of tucked in the neighborhood who made about a $250, if not more, worth of screens for me. So that's something you should take note of as well. And in the next few frames, we're just going to walk through a little bit of the transformation of both the bottom and the top unit. So earlier in the video, I think I showed some really vacant images and videos of the bottom unit, and this is just us kind of filling it in with the little knickknacks, the nooks and crannies, just furnishings, garbage cans, screens, things to make the bathroom nice. Then you're also going to need your, what is it called? Your linen, make it to make the bed look nice. Then we ended up adding that's the internet connection. So you got to remember to get your internet, your Wi-Fi. We added like a futon from Walmart, a secondhand table and chair. So we also had a table for the community area, fan because there's no AC in this unit, printer because it's student housing down here on the bottom. We added the cat just for emotional support, but there is a bed in the second bedroom. And by the way, I really like this setup for students because each person has their own bathroom, which was perfect for this particular buyer because they were very adamant about having their own bathroom and not having to share. And that was actually one of the reasons they kicked off this whole search for a home, because they just couldn't find a roommate situation that would work for them while they were in school. And before you get the last update, I want you to take a moment to hear a message from one of our channel sponsors. If you're a digital nomad or like me, spend lots of time traveling, listen up. What I'm about to tell you will change your life. Introducing Genki, the ultimate health insurance for world explorers just like you. Imagine roaming the globe without a care, knowing you're covered for any medical emergency. From scooter mishaps to tropical illnesses, Genki's got your back. With instant sign-up and quick claims, you can focus on your adventures, not paperwork. Don't let health worries hold you back. Choose Genki and travel with confidence. To get your free quote, just screenshot the QR code that you see here, or check out the link in the description below. So for the last plot twist, I want you all to know that at the very same time that I was preparing this rental, I was actually working on my personal property in Puerto Rico for a long-term rental. And in the interim, I actually moved into the client's property to make sure that we could meet our deadline of getting those renters in at the first of the month. There was even a time where I had to help this refrigerator delivery guy get the refrigerator up the stairs because he did not have his coworker with him, but we were not going to let that thing stay on the stairs all day. And finally, you will see me kind of tidying up, putting up the last appliance up here, which was the stove, and I'm moving some of my things out because I am actually headed on a new adventure. That's right, you all. I am going to be leaving Puerto Rico, headed to my next destination. A lot of you know that for a long time I've been saying I'm preparing to launch my digital nomad traveling stint. I don't know how long that's going to be, how long it's going to last, where I will start off or end up, but stay tuned and watch the channel. And finally, you should know that we got everything done. We welcomed in the renters for the client. We were even able to get some furniture donations to give them like a very temporary entertainment center set up for their kids, but we got it done, you all.